To present this CARP webinar called Smarter Health, Longer Life, What Adults 55 Plus Can Do Now and What's Coming Next. That's a full topic. Michael Nuschke is a retirement futurist, speaker, and educator. He's got over 40 years of experience helping people think about retirement and later life. And today he's going to explore how AI, new technologies, and healthy longevity are reshaping the future of aging. And through his work at retirementsingularity.com, he helps adults 55 plus understand what matters most, what's coming next, and how to prepare in practical ways. Very pleased to introduce to you my friend, Michael Nuschke. Michael?
Hey, Bill. Very, very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation and welcome everybody. So, shall I jump in, Bill?
Go ahead. Yes.
All right. Well, we have quite a bit of information to get through here and some ideas, and I'll probably go at a pretty good pace. So, I would ask you to ask any questions or clarification questions in the chat as we go through here, and we'll try to get to those at the end. I'm also going to suggest if you like to get these slides from this presentation in a PDF form, and there's a lot of slides, about 38, I think, that you can just send me an email and I will send that to you. So, and I'll put my email at the very end of this. So just keep that in mind in case you are if you're trying to scribble down notes, so you may not need to if you
And
just have the slides.
we will be sending the recording of this
Uh,
webinar to everyone. And in that email, we'll also attach any information that Michael wants you to have.
Great. Alrighty. So let me share my screen and kind of jump right into our presentation.
There it is. Came through fine. Great.
Okay. So yeah, we're talking here about smarter health, longer life, what we can do now and what's coming next. So just a few comments here as far as before we get going. I'm not a doctor. So even though we kind of get into some medical issues, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. And even though I think things like that we're seeing coming on, like AI, will be very helpful, they're still not quite there as far as taking over from being your doctor. So your doctor comes first. The idea is how to really work with your doctor, but also take control of your own health. So let's explore together and get into this. Here we are in Atlantic Canada, which kind of is I love the lifestyle. At the same time, it's a bit of a paradox. We're all living longer these days, but Atlantic Canada in particular has a very high level of chronic illness. We're a little bit over the average. The average in Canada is about 50%. So in Atlantic Canada, it's somewhere in the mid 50s that report at least one chronic disease. So we'd like to kind of work on staying healthy, and the goal of this presentation, and hopefully you share that goal, is to maximize what we call your health span. Health span is how long do you stay healthy? So, and that will help you stay independent and hopefully long enough to see some of the interesting things that are coming down the line from the very quickly advancing technologies, which we will get into. There's kind of a general story about aging. You know, that really it's more in the past, we're talking about aging societies, the gray tsunami. It's kind of framed as an inevitable decline into frailty and old age and death. So, but we're also starting to see a different kind of story that science is now kind of unfolding. And that has to do that with the idea that we can now analyze aging at very in-depth levels so that we can measure and modify certain aspects of aging and even reverse certain aspects of aging. And we'll get into that. So our role I would suggest, is that we don't want to be a passive kind of patient, but rather take control. One interesting footnote, it's kind of obvious on a personal side, that the cost of being ill is your downtime, medical costs, and the joy of life. And from a family point of view, the economic cost uh, goes further into that kind of emotional worry, and then the costs of support of other family members. So definitely there's costs beyond just our own situation. From a societal point of view, as we all know, healthcare takes up a large part of the budget, and it's continuing to advance. What is interesting, they've done studies to see what would adding 1 year of health span to the average human life do in terms of overall economic benefit. And the number is immense. It's $38 trillion if we saw humans live 1 extra year longer. Now, so you could actually be interested in this because, as you might also know, we have large debt problems in many countries, including Canada. And one way to kind of deal with that is to advance health spans, advance healthy living. And so there's lots of different reasons to support this kind of initiative besides just personal interest. I want to get into two examples of some things that are happening now, just to kind of wet your whistle. First of all, we'll get into something called partial epigenetic reprogramming, and this is a new type of therapy, which this earlier this year, for the first time, is entering human trials. It's already worked well with mice, and that is that it actually can rejuvenate cells at the cellular level. The first target of this study that's just starting is for optic nerve disease, and it's designed to restore the function of damaged cells. And that's interesting because nerve tissue is actually one of the hardest tissues to kind of repair. And we've already seen they can do this now in mice. So we're quite hopeful that this will be the beginning of something really quite interesting that might be able to extend to well beyond just the nerve issues, but other cells, other tissues and cells. So the idea of rejuvenation is not science fiction here. And that's a software example, you might say. And the hardware example, okay, before we get into the hardware example, the software idea here is that your DNA gets harder to read. The DNA has an epigenome layer that kind of turns on certain genes that really determine what each cell does. Over time, kind of like a scratch CD, the information gets harder to read. And so, in this whole idea of partial cellular rejuvenation, they're able to actually, you might say, erase the scratches. And therefore, the right information is getting through, and the cells basically provide more youthful and rejuvenative information. So that's kind of the science behind this. This is, by the way, this study is being led by Dr. David Sinclair, who runs the Aging Lab at Harvard University. He's also written a number of books. You may have heard of him. He's quite interesting speaker, somewhat controversial, but nevertheless, this is now real because it's entering the human trials, and we'll see probably within by the end of this year, we'll have some evidence of what's how this is doing with humans. Now, on the hardware side of an example, we can kind of think that robots are going from the Roomba to a roommate. And this was the idea that AI is entering the physical world. It's no longer just on your computer. We're already seeing companion robots being used in hospitals in Japan or at home. In fact, there's something like over 60 humanoid robot companies in the world, many of which are already in production and shipping robots now. So, uh, it'll take a while before the numbers add up, but we'll start seeing robot helpers in the home, not just to kind of be there as a chat bot, but to actually help you. Things like, helping you cook, helping you clean, and also might be also used for reminding you to take your medication or even for companionship and discussion. So the this is a whole other area that's coming on very, very fast, and it's really worth keeping an eye on. Overall, we're kind of seeing a lot of things line up that will allow aging in place to be a lot easier. And by far, when you do polls of people as to whether they want to go to a nursing home or age at home, almost like 80 to 90% is whether age in place while we're waiting for these rejuvenation things to come along. So from the bottom of this pyramid, some of the things that are lining up are ways that we can monitor ourselves through wearables like Fitbits and Oura rings, and also get our homes to help detect things such as can even detect the pace of your walk that might detect a risk in your health to different ways. Your house, maybe your mirror, or even a smart toilet, believe it or not, could actually help spot things before you would know. The AI companions we probably are already starting to use, like ChatGPT or Alexa, whatever. I have to be careful because there's an Alexa in the room and it'll come on if I don't. Yep, I hear it now. Anyways, then this idea of robots in the home might seem far-fetched, but it's really coming. And these robots could be really quite helpful. Many people think that within, say, 5 to 8 years, there will literally be billions of humanoid robots all around. We'll see them in the streets. Many of people will have them in their homes. You'll have them in institutions. And then, of course, all this information builds on each other so that you can provide a doctor with better information, better data summaries. So that's all interesting. That's the future. But that's not really helpful if you're not in the game. So the kind of key thing here is to stay in the game. Uh, we don't know exactly when many of these things will be widely available or affordable. So the bottom line here is to focus on your current health habits to keep you healthy so you can basically catch what's coming. So the overall perspective here, or the framework, is that we have a sick care system now where you go to the doctor or the hospital when you're sick. And so there really should be a preventative, proactive system to keep you healthy. And this now falls on us to do. And that's why the encouragement here is to think of yourself as the CEO, the chief executive officer of your own health. So, in order to do that, you have to kind of be active at it. And that involves things like tracking your health numbers, your blood pressure, your weight, blood sugar, your sleep patterns, and then also being able to ask better questions. And we'll get into how AI can be helpful with that. Think of yourself as part of a health team. You're the head of the team, but you have your doctors, your pharmacists, your physiotherapists, etc. And then we have now the oncoming incredible capabilities of AI and technology to help us with this. One thing that will help is to have data about your situation. And you may already know this, but if you don't, keep in mind that there are these websites you can go to in Nova Scotia. It's Your Health Nova Scotia or yourhealthns.ca. And you can go in there and you'll be able to actually download your medical history in terms of like hospital visits, doctor visits, medical tests, etc., as well as lots of other information about preventative medicine. So all the Atlantic provinces have something like this, and it's even also an app on your phone. So I have it on my iPhone. So if you don't know about this, here you go. So here's what we want to cover today. We want to first of all start with what can we do today right now to optimize your health? What do we know works? Secondly, we'll get into uh, using AI and wearables. Uh, AI, as you may or may not already be using it, but wearables, things like Fitbits and whatever, they can help us gather better information. There's also ways to deal with the problems with AI, which a lot of us already know about, to reduce the possibility of it making mistakes. And then we're going to cover what's coming up, what's on the horizon, what to watch out for. We've already talked a little bit about that, but we'll get into that a bit more. And then maybe get into some practical suggestions for the next 30 days or so. And of course, don't forget to add in your questions as you go through here so that Bill can then bring those up and we'll try to get through them. All right, so here we are, section one, establish health optimizations. So these are the basics. This is somewhat uh, I'm sure most people know almost all of this, but if not, maybe there's one or two things that you'll remember. Oh, yeah, right, that's a good idea. Or maybe you don't know, and this is going to be helpful. So, nevertheless, the key things are to build healthy habits, and you have to start where you are and build slowly, but also build intentionally your health habits. First of all, movement and exercise. And being less stationary is probably the number one thing that consistently shows up as the most effective way to improve your health. So that has to do with regular movement, regular weekly movement, as well as things like weightlifting. But certainly, walking is one of the most recommended exercises, and to avoid being stable or sitting for more than 60 minutes. The consistency here is very important, and Tony, to not just do it every couple weeks, but on a regular basis, set up a habit of regular movement, exercise. Something you may not have heard of is this fairly new study. It's called VILPA. It stands for Vigorous Intermittent Lifestyle Physical Activity, VILPA, or you could call it exercise snacks. This study was done recently. It's a very huge study, and it was only possible to actually conclude this because of the use of wearable uh, devices, which allowed the researchers to know how fast you were walking or how quickly you were moving. So they realized in the data of hundreds of thousands of people over a long period of time that short periods of brisk, extra effort, exercise, snacks, if you want to call it that, had dramatically better results than not doing that. So, in other words, if you're going to go for a 30-minute walk every day, occasionally get out of breath, go up a flight of stairs or up a hill, or walk really fast for 5 minutes. Vilpa really is just for kind of more extreme effort, only for like up to a minute. That could include carrying groceries, things like that. So the idea here is by doing this, it dramatically improves the health benefits of movement. Uh, it's not just a little bit better, but they in this study, which was quite a rigorous study, found that doing 5 of these Vilpa uh, exercises a day led to a 45% drop in all-cause mortality. So it wasn't just like a 5 or 10% improvement in reducing kind of early death, but was dramatic. So one thing to add to your exercise, if you don't already do it, instead of just doing walks that are kind of without losing breath, but to build in some Vilpa, which gets you slightly out of breath for a short period of time, several times a day. Of course, we know about importance of having muscle or keeping muscle. It really helps you move in the future. It also helps monitor or manage your glucose levels, which is very important. It will reduce frailty. So there's all kinds of uh, information about weightlifting as an important part of your health regime. But please don't forget to do some weight work. So keeping the ability to keep balance and prevent falls is very important. 89% of injury hospitalizations uh, occur from falls. So that's really quite dramatic. So it's a big threat to your independence because if you fall and break something and then you're no longer exercising and you're having to stay stationary for a long time, your health can go down fairly quickly. So it's not just the fall itself, it's the aftermath that can really destroy your health. And therefore, it's really important to kind of work on ways to prevent, strengthen your body so that falling won't happen by single leg stands, practicing turning and stepping, could be Tai Chi or yoga, getting up and down from chairs, really important. Then, of course, there's food. And, I'm not an expert dietitian, but it's obviously important to eat the right foods. And, protein is pretty important. I would suggest that uh, it would be worthwhile to look up or maybe Google or use your AI to research how much protein really should you be taking every day, because typically people are surprised that the recommendation is much higher than you might be currently taking in. So it's really the protein being the fuel for your cells. It's important to take it. So as well as the proper vegetables and fruit and leafy greens, the omega-3s from fish, really important. And what to avoid, of course, is the usuals, the ultra processed foods, the blood sugary things. So and being overweight. So these are things that are, I'm sure we already know about, but I'm just kind of here to remind you this is what we can do now that really does make a difference. And then we get into the area of stress and sleep. Um, it's also shown to be very important that we need to have regular sleep, which for almost everybody is at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If you're not getting that or it's interrupted a lot, you might want to spend a little bit more time in figuring out what's going on because it can really interfere with the rest of your health. But things that can interfere with good sleep would be alcohol, late caffeine, too much screen time before bed, and not having your sleep situation set up well. And then overall stress as well is obviously a health risk. It's really important to kind of consider managing stress, and you can do that by walking in nature, just practicing relaxation, could be meditation, whatever it might be. But it's important to think of it as part of your sleep, of your exercise regime as you become the CEO of your own health. And allow yourself some days if you don't become too gung ho at it, but we need to rest occasionally as well so that your body has time to repair. And I think finally we get into the idea of having connection, purpose, and mindset. A recent study from Yale looked at people with positive aging beliefs had 44% higher recovery when they did get hit with a severe disability. So they are just because of their positive outlook on life that, aging isn't a kind of downward spiral, but really it's more like new chapters in life, a more positive outlook really helps with the ability to recover. Secondly, social isolation, sorry, is itself a real health risk on par with cigarette smoking. Most of us would have heard that cigarette smoking is probably the obvious worst health thing you can do, but being socially isolated is pretty much on par in terms of the stats with the actual impacts of being alone or the impacts of cigarette smoking. So the important thing here is to stay connected, look at relationships kind of in a purposeful way to maintain them and build them, and also to have purpose. Purpose in your life when you get up, you have some idea what you like to do, what you like to do. And that's not easy to, if you don't have it already, then maybe you can use AI to help you find it. And a lot of people do that now. So the idea here also in terms of mental acuity is to keep learning new skills, new knowledge, to keep your brain engaged, whether it's crossword puzzles or learning new things like new languages or music, all very important for mental health. Okay, that was what we can do now. Now, our next section is getting into AI and wearables as health partners. So, how artificial intelligence and smart devices are changing the way we manage our health and what that means. So, we're still not at the point where we can say AI can now be your doctor because there are so many examples of mistakes it makes that are kind of wow. You have to be careful. Nevertheless, it is an incredibly powerful partner that can help you do things like research conditions or symptoms or health information, and help you get prepared for a doctor appointment, help you explain what a condition is, help you organize your medical records, your medical information, also organize your medications in terms of when you should take what. Uh, Now, it can also miss a lot of stuff because it may not have all the information it needs to give uh, a proper answer. And in fact, AI, as you probably have heard, can make things up, like hallucinate and give you information that's very confidently that is wrong. So you always have to be careful, as again, it's more of a partner, not the final say. The final say is yours, but usually when you're working with you and your doctors or clinicians. Now, here's an example of somebody using AI that came from a recent Zoomer magazine. It was the story of Heather Maxwell. Her experience showed that AI can be a powerful health ally. So, first of all, she was experiencing severe brain fog and fatigue and poor concentration, and it was really affecting her. So she went to doctors. She had begun testing, but nothing was coming up that really helped her uh, progress and deal with these set of symptoms. So she decided to ask ChatGPT. She fed in her information, her test results, and through going back and forth, ChatGPT suggested some possible next steps, including recommending a sleep study, which that was not something she had considered or the doctors had not come up with. And so she did have a sleep study that is it's kind of a study that they will actually see you measure your sleeping behavior. And it confirmed that she had sleep apnea, and that's a treatable condition that had been missed. So that's just one example of many that you might already have examples of this or know of it, but it really can be quite useful. Not that again, it's not AI versus your doctor. It's AI can enhance your ability to understand your condition and ask better questions. So the best uses for AI are to not really provide final diagnosis. No, not yet, at least, but rather to prepare you for a doctor visit with having very a high level of understanding of possibilities and a focused list of questions. It also can explain more complicated medical jargon in understandable language. It can also help you organize your meds, as I mentioned before. And you can even say, here are all the supplements and medications that I'm taking, and do any of these interact, or should I not be taking any of these two together, or is there any problem? And AI is actually quite good at looking at that. So that's something that you might want to consider if you have a list of things that you're taking. But one of the key things, AI is really started out as being able to identify patterns, and patterns can be hard to notice, but for AI, it's actually what it's very good at doing. So by feeding enough information into the AI of your history, and you keep feeding it the new information as you go along, you can actually become a very good partner to help spot things that may have been noticed, not missed or missed, I should say. So here's some practical tips on using AI, like the ChatGPT, or there's many others. Um, for prompting. So better to not say diagnose me, but rather give me the possibilities of what these symptoms could be. And that keeps AI in its proper lane, not as a final diagnosis. It's also helpful to get AI to ask you questions. And this is very key. This is real key. It's called reverse prompting. So you would say to your AI, ask me 8 questions about this medical condition that I'm experiencing, so that you'll have a better idea of what it could be. And it will keep asking you these 8 questions, and you'll be surprised how deep it gets. And then you're just giving the AI a much better context, which will produce better results, as opposed to just a question and answer. It should be more of a discussion. You can also ask for red flags. So you can ask AI to list the red flags of what could be a more urgent issue in this situation. And then you can also say, if it comes up with an idea, you could then say, "Tell me what could change your answer." In other words, what if you're wrong? And so challenge the AI, and this is very helpful, and it will get AI to reconsider and kind of go over its analysis, its own logic, and often will come up with different ideas. Uh, I'd say specifically, it's really quite good at helping you prepare for a doctor visit. So if you have an issue, a health issue that you're going to go to the doctor to discuss, well, you can kind of already have gone through this with your AI and ask the AI to produce a list of questions that you should ask your doctor about this condition. And this will be very, very good. In fact, the doctor themselves will probably appreciate it because it's more directed and more clear. So, as I mentioned, the idea of AI being wrong, AI hallucinations, AI can be very confident and in its answer, but sometimes completely wrong. In fact, it can actually make up fake studies to support its recommendation. So even if it gives you an answer, you have to ask, where did you get that information? Give me the links that I can actually look this up myself, and it will do that, and then you can see whether these are real or not. But AI was recently caught. I think it was by like a Swedish researcher who made up a medical condition and called it some weird name, and put up lots of information online about it, even though it was not real. And AI one AI actually diagnosed somebody with this fake disease. It doesn't even exist. So, yes, it can make things up. And this is why you cannot really count on AI replacing your doctor. You really have to use it in a skillful way to get to have it, you might say, enhance your own ability to understand what's going on. So, some of the important things to consider are AI continues to evolve. And even in the last month, there have been new models that have been released that are quite a bit more powerful and also quite a bit less likely to make errors. So they're getting better and better in order to reduce the idea of making these hallucination errors. So stick to the updated, well-known, regularly updated AI tools. Then you can ask AI, uh, once it gives you an answer, how certain are you of this answer, and what are what uncertainties are still out there? And it will tell you, how uncertain it is, or how solid it is, or what are the possible uncertainties. So, but you have to ask. Then you can say find out what would change your answer. We mentioned this before, like what test results would lead to a completely different conclusion than what you just gave me. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, ask for sources. Ask AI to cite specific sources that you can click on and go to and read, and to understand whether they're factual or not. And then, what I do is to use more than one model. So I'll get an answer from one model after going through a number of these things, and I'll copy that discussion, put it into another AI model, and say, try to verify these answers and this information, and recommend any ways to improve upon the answer. And you even get even more out of that. So these are ways you can kind of help get better answers, better information from the AI. So it's not just us using AI. Your doctor's probably using it already as well. They can use it not only to do things like look up things, but also to help take notes. So these days, there are programs that are coming out now being used, I think, province-wide, that allow doctors for medical records, so that they don't have to be in front of their computer and typing while you're trying to actually have a discussion with them. So that can provide a little bit more direct contact and probably would improve the overall relationship and results, and also helps them in terms of less paperwork burden. So AI is going to be helpful in the medical system altogether. I would say we're only just starting to see the benefits. These models continue to get better every few months. And I'd say by the end of, say, the middle of next year, I think we might even be even more at a more revolutionary level of AI tools and helpfulness. So keep plugged into this. Don't kind of say, "Oh no, it's no good." It continues to evolve, and it's already really good, but not perfect. Okay, wearables, as you probably know, like Fitbits and Aura rings, they can help track your movement, your some of the health uh, signals, your sleep. It can look for patterns, and this can usually be tied into a computer program and looking for patterns. So this more information that, the more information you have that you can either use with your AI or with your doctor, the better it is. So I think wearables will get better and better and more in depth in terms of how they can help us track and get better data about our own health, to help us be our own health CEO. Now, here's one of the bigger issues that I'm sure you've heard it before, and that's the privacy issue. So, is it really a good idea to put in your personal, medical information to an AI? It's a real concern. The conundrum is the more data that you give the AI, the better the output will be. In fact, the more accurate, it's almost important to give it as much information as possible if you're going to try to be wanting to rely on the outcome. So, nevertheless, providing it with more and more data is also this is the data that AI trains on for the next model. So that means your personal data is kind of now in the system and being used. So, nevertheless, there are ways to limit that. And if you don't know this, every AI model has settings that can that you can say that will prevent it from using your personal data for training purposes. So you have to look into each of the individual AI models to do that. Um, and how do you do that? Well, I would just ask your AI, literally. So you in your chat box, just say, um, I want to limit the amount of personal information that you are using in the future. How do I do that? And it'll tell you, you go to settings, you go to privacy issue, and then it'll tell you each model is slightly different, but it'll direct you through how you can kind of click the right buttons to minimize the amount. Nevertheless, I would say it is an issue, and we don't know exactly, how reliable these controls are. So I would say you have to be comfortable with the idea, or not be comfortable with the idea, that your privacy is your private medical information may be breached. And so that's may or may not be a big issue. Like, and you might say, well, who cares whether they know I'm sick or not? If you have any relationship with insurance companies can somehow tap into that. They might not give you insurance or raise your rates because they know that you have this health issue. That's one example. But I personally think there's not a whole lot. I don't know what to do about it. It's kind of up to you. You're in control of what information. I would never share things like your SIN number or your address, your actual living address, things like that. So nothing specific. So just be careful. And also, if you're going to upload a medical record, make sure your SIN number or phone number or address isn't on that record. So it's not, so it's important to not give that level of personal information. Nevertheless, I've kind of gone the route of if it's going to help me, it's going to help me better if it knows as much as possible about my situation. And I know that there is some risk to that, but there's also benefits to having AI having more information. So this is up to all of us to decide what is worth sharing. It's a trade-off. Okay, let's get into our last section. Um, what's coming next? And the future is arriving very fast. The speed of AI advances is just mind-boggling, as well as technology like the humanoid robots we talked about. So here are some things to look out for. Well, AI-assisted drug discovery is coming on. It's already being used. They can go through literally hundreds of thousands of different possible chemical combinations and actually apply it to a virtual cell. It's not even a real cell. It's a cell that exists in a computer to see how it interacts and then decide whether that particular chemical combination is worth pursuing. So it can find targets faster. And in some cases, it's shortening research times from years to just days. As well, once they have found promising looking drugs, the trial times are also shortening because, at least in certain cases, they're allowing shorter trial times because of the quality of the data that comes from the analysis uh, before the trial starts. Um, and what's interesting is aging is now starting to become an actual target. So the idea of curing aging, which medical system would never go along with that framing, but now they're looking at aging itself as possibly a target for certain drugs and therapies. The next generation of AI, we're using kind of more of the chat bots, and maybe we're getting into the agents, AI agents, which we won't get into today, but it's advancing very quickly. So right now we're using general models, but there are many specialized AI health related models that are in development, and some of them are already out. So they will be much more effective for us in using than general models. They'll also be able to help monitor our health on an ongoing basis, explain and educate things much more clearly. They'll be more reliable and help us prevent things, look for patterns that will help us prevent disease to continue to actually go on to a dangerous stage. Also, doctors will continue to actually use AI tools, and I think the best combination will be AI plus doctors plus us. Kind of like Jarvis, if you ever watch Iron Man movies, we're quite likely to see that we'll all eventually have a Jarvis, a master AI robot AI at home that will be the interact. They'll actually interact with all the other AIs out there and the other the other AIs, opposed for us to have to deal with things. Our Jarvis will do it for us, so it'll help us, stay healthy, prevent falls, remind you about chores and do chores, and also be companionships and aging in place. And this is until we see more dramatic changes in the future of rejuvenative medicine. Medical tourism is something I just want to bring up, and that is because the speed of the advances are so fast, that we're likely to see some of these drugs and therapies available in other countries outside of Canada before they're available here. And sometimes that's worth looking into, but also a lot of risk involved. So we're not going to get into that too far, but I'd say that we're going to see more and more medical tourism because the institutions can't keep up with the speed of the advances. And therefore, there will be opportunities to take advantage of breakthrough cures, but buyer beware. So the overall idea here is that we're trying to stay healthy in order to intercept some of these advances that are coming down the line. There's something called longevity escape velocity that Ray Kurzweil, which is one of the earliest futurists who were talking about this, is the point at which science advances our remaining life faster than we age. So, and he sees this as a bridge to a bridge to a bridge. And the first bridge is what we're doing right now, is to use the best knowledge we have now to stay healthy, exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress, etc. The second bridge is the new stuff coming on with gene therapies and stem cells biotechnology that can treat diseases, even maybe cure specific diseases. And then lastly, we'll get into bridge three, which was into things like nanotechnology. We'll have things swimming in our blood system that will monitor our health system 24 hours a day, and basically cutting off any health issues before they even start. So that's a future look. Okay, that's the future. Let's get back to the present. What can we do now? Um, well, these are really exciting times because the AI and tech world are pushing the advances, the acceleration of these advances. It's just kind of mind-boggling. And I do think that even though that within our lifetime, there are things that will potentially be really important to know about and maybe something that you'll want to use. So nevertheless, we have to kind of stay in the game. So the basics are stay active, walk a lot, do strength training, do this VILPA exercise snacks on a regular basis. Maybe use AI for health summaries, and to pick and use AI occasionally just to get used to it. If you're not using it yet, I would just say try it out. Try out some questions, some of the prompts that we used here. But it's important that the more you use it, the more you'll understand what it can and can't do. And then maybe pick one health signal metric that matters to you, like how good is your sleep, how many steps you're taking per day, what's your heart rate, and watch it and start tracking some of your health signs. So those are just some suggestions to get going if you're kind of new and early at this. So we talked about the idea of staying connected. The future of retirement here is changing very, very fast. And extended health span may become a new retirement reality. There's no promises, but I think there's some very exciting things coming very soon. So important to stay curious, but also stay skeptical, but be prepared to see things that might be something that will change your life. And I would invite you to follow some of the information that I'm putting out on this whole topic through my website called retirementsingularity.com. And if you'd like a copy of these slides, just email me. It's retirementsingularity@gmail.com. But invite you to go to the Retirement Singularity website and sign up. And that way you'll get regular notices about new postings that come up on that. And I'll start getting, there's more and more information coming out. And I would be very happy to include you in our readership. All right. Thank you very much. And let's switch now to a Q&A period.
Okay, thank you, Michael, very, very much. Another of these very interesting CARP webinars, and I know from the number of people who are online and stayed online, it was certainly worthwhile. Reminding everybody that a copy of these PowerPoint slides and a copy of the webinar itself will be sent to everyone who registered. So we encourage you to watch for that, and you'll have Michael's uh, information that he wants you to have at that time, and how to get in touch with him and how to sign up for his very interesting blog. Michael, we have a couple of questions here so far. One is that you mentioned sleep, and this person said, is which is more important, the amount of sleep or the quality of sleep?
Yeah. Uh, well, I'd say both. The uh, it really, I think, is important to get enough sleep. A lot of people try to shorten their sleep, and I think they might be cheating themselves. But the quality of sleep, of course, is important, and that might be due to all the other factors we talked about that can interfere with the quality of your sleep, like caffeine and alcohol, and also not having a good sleep environment, like too much light in your room, or it's too hot, or whatever. So I don't know. It's I would just say that both these things are really important in terms of sleep.
Somebody else asked for your email again, and another member of our viewing audience put it in the chat. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
it's there again for anybody that wants it. I was very interested, Michael, and so were some of the others, by your explanation of AI and how it can be used, and some of the ups and downs of using it. And you and I have talked, and we'll tell folks now about doing an upcoming webinar that will
Mhm.
delve more into AI in great detail, and we'll let everybody, of course, know when that is. But Michael, there's so many people who are afraid of using any kind of technology these days. What's your advice in terms of where to? You mentioned ChatGPT. There are others too. How do you judge what you're doing and what's worthwhile?
Yeah. Well, think it's interesting is that most of the leading models, and there's like maybe five leading companies in this, the models are getting more and more similar. So it really, I don't think it matters a whole lot. There's little differences between them, but the training data, I think, is more and more basically the same. And therefore, you often will get very similar results with whichever model you use. Some of them people like this personally. They feel like it's more talking to them. Others like the more factual thing. But really, the issue here is being skillful at prompting, and that would be something that do in the future webinar is to go over how to be skillful at your prompting, because that really determines how well the AI will, give you the what you need. And that's very, very key. And then the idea of using multiple models is really interesting, so that you can get an answer from one, feed that answer into another, and ask it to critique it, find the flaws, and then look for that. And if you find that it actually found an error, go back to the original one and say, did you know you made this mistake? You know, and see what it does. It's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
but and there's other AI tools and programs as well that are really extraordinary that help you organize information. You know, if you're like me, this is an area it's really interesting. There's so much coming out. It's kind of overwhelming. And what you can do is use AI to help you with the overwhelm, and that is by saving links to some of the articles that you thought were really interesting. Maybe you just scanned them, you didn't read the whole thing, and you can put the link into an AI program and keep adding to it, and then have AI do an entire analysis of this set of web links and tell me what's important that would be important to me from these, from these links. So it can really help you shorten your time and have less overwhelm and feel that you can't keep up with things. You can actually get AI to help you shorten and summarize things that can be very helpful. Those are just a couple ideas.
Yeah, certainly is, and I know the upcoming webinar will deal more into this. But I think one of the things you talked about was prompting, and maybe you covered it briefly in the presentation, but just so people understand, what do you mean by AI prompting?
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you go to any AI, like a chat GPT, there's a box where you start a conversation. You type in something or a question, and that question is really called a prompt. So it's really not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a question. It could be, you could be putting in an article, and then you could be uploading a PDF, and then you might ask the AI, analyze this PDF and tell me 5 important things I should know about. And then that's your prompt.
Right.
And then, but what's interesting is if you pick a model and you continue to use it, the AI will start learning about you. So you can say, based on our previous conversations, you know what I'm looking for, and therefore give me an answer that applies to my life, that will be helpful to me, in terms of whatever goal you might have. So the AI, the more you use it, the more customized it can be. That's a fairly recent function that has to do with the memory ability of AI. Before it used to be that every conversation started new, it had no recollection or memory of what you had before. Now it can actually use most of your past information and dialogue as part of its input to answer your question in a personalized way, which can be very, very powerful. So, yeah.
Good. I just noticed this question where I should have asked it first. Somebody is asking, where and how do I get AI?
Well, uh, uh, I think probably everybody knows Google. So go to google.ca and ask Google, say, give me the links to the top 4 AI programs. And then Google will answer, and show you the links to ChatGPT, to Gemini, to Perplexity, to XAI, whatever it might be. And then for each of those, there's a free version, uh, which it's okay. It's actually quite good. And there's typically a paid version. And the paid version these days, the average cost is around $20 US a month. And the reason to have a paid version is you get a little bit more of an advanced model, a little bit more of a memory, and maybe some additional features. But frankly, the free models of today are as good as the paid models from a year ago.
Yeah.
So the free models are fine. So I would do it that way. Most people start with ChatGPT. It currently has nearly 1 billion users. It's incredible. But also, I really find Google's Gemini to be really good and Perplexity to be very good. A lot of people don't have different views about XAI, which is Elon Musk's company. It has something called Grok, which is another AI. But actually, I find that to be one of the best AIs. So, but a lot of people have political
Yes.
distaste for that. So it's up to you. But as I say, it's often interesting to use one against the other or in tandem and see what each of them answers if you give it the same information and compare it. But I would say more likely they're more and more similar to each other these days.
I'm trying to remember where this question would have come from, so I'll see if you can. But Barbas, what are the five models to which you refer?
Yeah, well, that was I just listed them. So
Oh, okay.
that was ChatGPT, which
Oh, okay.
you get through OpenAI is the name of the company, openai.com. And then there's Gemini, which is Google's model. There's Perplexity, which is its own thing. There's Claude, which comes from a company called Anthropic. And then there's XAI, and that's the previous Twitter. But XAI has a AI model um, called what's it called? Grok,
Rock,
Grok,
right,
Grok.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are five. Those are the five big ones. But in fact, there's quite a few others, and there's quite a few in China as well. A lot of Chinese models. China has been interesting in that they've gone open source, so that their models are totally free to use. But a lot of people are a little suspicious of that and what they're up to, because of the uncertainty about what they'll do with the data that you're giving it.
Right.
So most people will generally want to go with one of these five models that have some indications of basically being uh, responsible with people's data.
Very good. Well, that seems to be all the questions that we have, Michael. So we're right in the hour that we intended.
Right?
Reminder to everybody that CARP Nova Scotia will be sending you out the webinar link so that you'll be able to watch it again, and also we'll send you a link to the PowerPoint that Michael had, so you'll have all the notes that you need, and that'll be out sometime within the next 10 days or so. It takes a little time to pull it together and edit it and then send it out to all of you. We'll also post them on our CARP Nova Scotia website page and our CARP Nova Scotia Facebook page, all for you then. As many of you know, this is just another in a series of CARP webinars. The next one coming up, which you'll be hearing about shortly, is on summer gardening and how to keep yourself safe and without muscle and back problems during the gardening season. And if you're like me, you probably need that already because I'm one with a sore back from exactly exactly that these days. So once again, thank you very much, Michael, for this presentation. Obviously, very interesting, and really appreciate what we're doing. We're getting lots of thank yous in the chat here. We appreciate it all. And so until the next webinar, I'm Bill Van Gorder along with Michael Nuschke. Thanking you for watching and hoping you all have a good day. Thank you very much.